Good evening. I would like to now call the June 10th, 2025 City Council regular meeting to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, may I please have a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski.
Present.
Vice Mayor Jan Duboskus.
Here.
Council members Barry Graham. Here. Adam Quasman. Here. Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
Marianne McCallan.
Present.
And Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Greg Caton.
Here.
City Attorney Sherry Scott.
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
Acting City Auditor Leigh Clough.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. This evening, we have Scottsdale Police Officer Darren Hyman and Detective Will Hathaway, as well as firefighter Brad Reynolds. If anyone requires special assistance, please let a member of our staff know. This evening, I will be leading the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And for the invocation, I turn the mic over to Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. So I am going to have a moment of silence, but I heard something on the radio today that I wanted to share. It was an NIH scientist who said, "You can't be brave if you're not scared." So for my moment of silence, I wanted to pray for bravery for all of us to invoke what Abraham Lincoln said is the better angels of our nature, and be united when so many want us to be divided, and use our differences to find the best path forward for our residents. And I just want to share appreciation for all my colleagues and ask everybody for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Whitehead. So for tonight's mayor's report, I'd like to take a moment to commend and provide special recognition to one of our city volunteers, Henry Crowder, who I believe is with us here tonight. Great story. Henry is one of the many volunteers at the City of Scottsdale, and he assists at the Pinnacle Peak Trailhead. On April 5th, Henry's alertness and quick actions saved the life of a part-time city employee, recreation leader John O'Neill. While taking a stroll up the trail, John began to experience distress, but was able to make his way back down. And it was at this point that Henry spotted John experiencing a medical emergency. Henry quickly sprang into action and took John to the emergency room at Thompson Peak, where, thanks to Henry's quick thinking, John was able to receive proper and immediate care. John's wife, Patty, shared that the doctors attribute John's speedy recovery in part because Henry got John to the hospital in such a quick period of time. Patty went on to share that it is people like Henry and volunteers at Pinnacle Peak that make our parks and preserve a wonderful place to visit and experience, and in this case, potentially save a life. So that's amazing. Henry, is Henry here? All right. Well, I'm going to give you something here, so you might as well come up. We cannot thank you enough on behalf of the city, and I'll meet you right over there with your certificate, for your service as a volunteer, so you don't have to stand right here in front of us. Due to your quick thinking and actions, you saved a City of Scottsdale employee, a husband, and a friend. The City and Pinnacle Peak is incredibly lucky to have you as a volunteer. And my understanding is that both Henry and John, I didn't miss that part. Is John here? All right. Well, why don't you come up and join us here? And please join us for a photo. And I have a certificate of recognition here for Henry Crowder as the city's rock star volunteer. All right. For the first public comment, which is reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and property owners to comment on non-agendized items, I will be calling up 5 speakers. These speakers are to address issues that are within the council's jurisdiction but not on tonight's agenda. No official council action can be taken on these items, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes to address the council. If you wish to speak on a non-agendized item, I note that all spots are filled, so we'll just proceed. We have received 5 for the first period, and starting with Steve Sutton, followed by French Thompson, then Vanessa Goldberg, Jane Adamson, and Dan Isaac. Is Steve here? See no, oh, there you are.
Good evening, Honorable Lisa Borowski, Mayor of Scottsdale, and council members. Last week was a terrible week for me. Zoe, my beloved 6-year-old Shih Tzu mix, had to be euthanized on Monday after only a week of illness. On Thursday, a man at the dog park behaved in a threatening manner toward me, but fortunately, a young woman came to my rescue and gave him a chewing out that convinced him to leave the park. Friday morning on the active side of the dog park, 2 pit bull mixes got into a fight, knocked a woman to the ground for several minutes. 2 people received dog bites. A half dozen people started screaming at each other. Fortunately, another group of dog owners communicated and cooperated together to take action until 2 police officers arrived to sort out the mess. The signs we have encouraging people to communicate and cooperate are working. Last week, I emailed all of you about my main topic tonight. 1 council member acknowledged receipt and replied by email. Another replied in person at the farmer's market. I wish to thank Councilwoman McGowan for doing so and Mayor Borowski. There is a tsunami moving toward this council. It is composed of residents opposing construction of a garage at the Brown Avenue parking corral. The opposition is primarily based on factors that have nothing to do with the farmer's market. People and business owners do not want a garage. No matter how beautiful the design is, a garage is inappropriate for the historic and cultural aesthetics of the area and detrimental to Old Town businesses. Many people think that there is not a parking availability problem in historic Old Town. On even the busiest days, there is a parking management problem. The city manager has the text of the new petition that is circulating. The petition requests the conducting of a parking study similar to the 2015 Walker study, but only in the southeast and southwest quadrants of Old Town. Residents will expect the study to be nonpartisan and objective in its methodology and parameters. The study must be transparent to the public to ensure that it is accepted as being nonpartisan. I think this council has misjudged the public sentiments about this proposed garage. Unless the council proves to Scottsdalians that this garage at this location is essential, the council may provoke a furious political response. I believe the council is about to come under a level of scrutiny that equals or is greater than at any time in Scottsdale Council history. I very much appreciate the fact that you helped me in making the dog park safer, and I very much regret that I'm in disagreement with 6 of you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and so sorry about your dog.
Thank you, Mayor.
French Thompson.
Madam Mayor and City Council, thank you for having me here. My name is French Thompson. My address is on record. So this is a visual guide to Old Town parking that I had made. There are 2 premier shopping areas in Old Town, Fashion Square and the area around Main Street and Scottsdale Road, both of which need parking to survive. This is an aerial view of Fashion Square. I determined that all of Fashion Square is within a 1,000-foot radius, which is a comfortable walking distance. It's a professionally run shopping center that has plenty of parking all around it. It's clear that the mall provides ample parking with several large parking structures. I decided to apply that same 1,000-foot radius to the corral lot seen here from above. I also went door to door in that area and documented every address and business. There are 169 unique small businesses in that area with employees, with 401ks. Those people are all there trying to make a living. And that's all within walking distance of the Corral parking garage. That makes this location the perfect place to add additional parking. So here's a little bit of historical imagery that I don't know very many of you have ever seen. Seen from above is the Giants Stadium in 2005, which was after the Corral lot was built. As you can see, there were 650 parking spaces to the east and south of the stadium. After this photo in 2005, the city removed the 550 parking spaces to the east to build practice fields. Then in 2019, they removed an additional 50 spaces to the south for a convention center. That only left 50 parking spaces at the stadium, all of which were removed without any replacement in the Old Town area. So between March of 2005 and present day, not one single city-owned parking space has been built in Old Town. In reality, we've lost 600 parking spaces. The Corral lot is city-owned, and all the necessary infrastructure is already in place. The city paid quite a bit extra to build a foundation of the parking garage to allow up to 3 more levels on top of the surface lot. At an Old Town parking work study, it was proposed to add 3 levels to the garage. In order to limit the height in keeping with the area, the City Council decided to only add 2 levels. For a multitude of reasons, this is by far the best location to add additional parking south of Indian School in Old Town. Do you have any questions?
Councilman Graham.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Did you attend the recent outreach meeting that was held in Old Town?
No, I did not. I had a previous engagement.
Okay. I didn't know if you had any reflections or if you'd heard anything, takeaways from that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vanessa Goldberg.
Thank you.
City Council, Mayor, my name is Vanessa Goldberg. I live in Scottsdale, and my address is on file. I am here as a resident, as an outraged resident, outraged because of the decision of the council to cancel the Scottsdale Sustainability Plan. And I would like to ask for a reversal of that decision. It does not take unusual intelligence to see that we in Scottsdale are not immune to the general threats of ongoing drought, putting a strain on our reliable water supplies, of merciless heat, causing illness, sometimes death, and raising the cost of cooling that we all depend on, of extreme weather destruction with scorching wildfires and high cost to business. These are among the threats that call into question our very quality of life and all that Scottsdale is known and beloved for. One of the most livable cities of America, a magnet for tourism, and reliable business environment. It is for good reason, then, that the Scottsdale General Plan requires a sustainability plan to mitigate these dangers. So for close to 3 years, scientists, analysts, council staff, and Scottsdale citizens, like me, worked on a carefully crafted sustainability plan for our city. The plan was passed overwhelmingly by the previous council last December. Our voices had been heard. Then in January of this year, the present council listened to public comments by over 30 residents of different ages and professions, experts of different fields, all of them passionately in support of the sustainability plan. I was one of those who spoke, and I'm still in disbelief of what then happened. Councilman Barry Graham invoked a rarely used procedural rule to prevent the council from even discussing the many arguments that had been presented. Therefore, a vote had to be taken, and 4 council members voted to repeal the sustainability plan. This was deeply disrespectful and testimony to a closed-mindedness that Scottsdale does not deserve. I am inviting the council to reconsider this January action to revive the Scottsdale Sustainability Plan and to do the right thing for your city, which is, after all, your responsibility.
Thank you very much. Jane Adamson, followed by Daniel Isaac, and then there are only 2 others, right, on the... Then I have Brandon Gowan and Tom Frankel.
Good evening. My name is Jane Adamson, and I live at 11,000 North 77th Place, and I've lived in Scottsdale for 33 years. I'm currently retired, but prior to retirement, I had a management consulting business and worked on strategic planning with businesses all across the country and often in Canada. So I traveled a great deal. And every time I came home and got my car at Sky Harbor, I'd drive north on 101, and I'd look at the mountains and the colors of the sky and the desert, and I would be so grateful to live in Scottsdale. That was kind of my happy time. But now the world is experiencing great and accelerating climate change, and my beloved city voted not to do more to protect and sustain the quality of life that we've been lucky enough to have. The actual definition of sustainability is, quote, the ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level, unquote. My work in strategic planning gave me a front row seat on business leadership. And I understand the implications of opportunity cost when you kick the can down the road. For example, right now, we enjoy substantial economic benefits from tourism. And yes, they come for the shopping and the resorts and the galleries. But they also come for the golfing and the tennis and the biking and the hiking and our unique scenery. Our reputation now is a city that honors our environment and our commitment to livability. Losing that reputation, either from inactivity or from our professed opposition to sustaining our environment, will have significant and immeasurable lost opportunity cost. Because clearly, as heat increases and other climate hazards grow, the cost of sustaining our ecosystem will only increase. You all know the data, both current and predicted, around water shortage and energy and rising heat index, so I don't need to go over all of that information. And for residents, it's also not going to take someone who follows all the climate data. It's not going to take someone who reads the scientific journal or who has a degree in economics. All it takes is living in Scottsdale. A resort, a golf course, or a restaurant owner knows that if fewer visitors come, how that affects the bottom line. Anyone who works outdoor, like the police or construction or road repairs, knows when the sun is hotter, and every homeowner worries about there being enough water. So there is no explanation that's needed. We elect you and count on you to sustain our quality of life here. Most of you on this council basically voted against the majority of citizens like me and repealed the adopted sustainability plan that we carefully crafted over a 3-year period. Real leadership requires action now. The climate is not going to wait for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dan Isaac, followed by Brandon Gowan, Tom Frankel, and Michael Schaefer.
Dan Isaac, address on record. I have 2 topics, the first of which will be addressed by the following video.
I believe it's a toxic environment due to the mayor at all. She's going to work every day with people who are allegedly conspiring to throw her in jail, which came out this weekend and some leaked audio. That's the environment she's working in. And when you're trying to lead a group of folks and 3 of them just try to undercut your every move and make things difficult day to day, nothing's going to get done.
So it's the council?
It's 3 specific city councilors, yeah.
Does the mayor know that, like, the 3 of us are participating in this? No.
So what we're doing is basically just gathering as much information especially from the 3 of you, because the 3 of you are the ones that brought things forward, I think, through Rachel Mitchell, the county attorney.
I think Jan did, and then, I was reached out to, and I think Adam was reached out to. I did not report this. I think it was Jan.
We frankly have done a lot of research on, can we just 5-2 vote her out? And that's not how that charter doesn't allow it. And so she either has to quit or she has to be convicted to be gone.
We're just trying to kind of figure out exactly what took place so we can determine whether or not
there was something
it's appropriate for us to go forward with a criminal investigation or not.
Jan, Barry, and I had a conversation, and so we were like, we got to call somebody. We decided to call you guys.
She's mad that I won outright and she didn't. And she's that type of person that she thinks she's the person who everybody should be paying attention to. 4 of us are friends and we're tight, and Lisa's just always been a bitch. And so, and as you can tell, I was her last pick. It totally backfired on her. Totally backfired on her, yeah.
I think that speaks for itself. Second topic, I'd like to understand why Kathy would nominate a person for a board or commission who has often shown a blatant disregard for the rules of order of council meetings. I'm speaking of French Thompson, who has used public comment to make personal attacks and discuss matters over which the council has no purview. This is now how we reward bad behavior? By nominating a person with no applicable experience to our tourism board because he contributed to your campaign? And let's return to Jan's foundational campaign promise about conflict of interest. The one she broke before even taking office by accepting contributions from businesses, and then again by not recusing herself from votes. Jan, we're 5 months in, and you have yet to put on the agenda any strengthening of the conflict of interest rules. Not that they seem to matter to many of you, particularly Barry, who was found guilty of violating the ethics code, and Adam, who sends vulgarity-laden threatening texts to our mayor, or you, Jan, who has been too busy with other things. By the way, your lack of judgment saying all that on tape is remarkable. But here is a thought. To avoid any sense of pay to play, how about we make a rule that no one who received a campaign contribution from an individual is allowed to nominate or vote for that individual to hold a position on a board or a commission? Seems quite sensible, and I think most residents would support that. I won't hold my breath since you've demonstrated no desire to actually keep your promise. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Gowan.
Mayor, Council, everybody, how's it going? My name is Brandon McGowan. I just moved here from the East Coast. Just moved here to Scottsdale. I just moved from Rhode Island, and for some of you that don't know, Rhode Island is the small state in the country, not Rhode Island, not Long Island, New York. I just want to introduce myself. I moved here because my girlfriend's finishing up med school. I currently own a drone company for search and rescue. I've trained with numerous departments back home. Obviously, budgeting is a big thing for each state and each city. I help successfully train numerous departments back home, all the way from Boston PD for Rhode Island State Police. I have also done budgeting as far as buying drones for departments wholesale, so it's cheaper as far as budgeting and planning. A little bit about my background. I currently was a hockey player. I played on the United States hockey team. I won 2 gold medals, suffered a severe spinal injury, which left me paralyzed for over a year. Once I miraculously had a recovery, I set out for a goal and decided to take that and start a business and help others and train and lead and educate. So with that being said, I trained numerous departments, provided overwatch for crowd control. Busiest times of the year is in the summer for Rhode Island because we are the ocean state. With that being said, we did a lot of serving for, contracting work for departments, training them, leading them, educating and stuff with the company. and just providing them with solutions as far as budget planning, because unfortunately, drones nowadays are not cheap, and as far as everything goes, is budget and planning, to buy one, you have to buy multiple. So I just wanted to introduce myself and, say who I am and my story, and try to let everybody know that with me being here recently, I'm going to try to work my way in and maybe help with some of the departments in the city of Scottsdale to either help educate, lead, and do some things with them. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Tom Frankel.
Tom Frankel, 7340 East Main. New council members, haven't seen you. Welcome on. I've been here 40 years and have maybe seen 20 to 25 versions of various councils, some in disarray, some in unity, some as ugly as maybe some of the things that are happening with this one, and some where it worked well. But in maybe a idealistic perspective from someone who has benefited from those 20 to 25 councils, Scottsdale's a beautiful place to live and work. And all the dissension and arguing and whatever, ultimately, it forms a really nice community. And if I had given the opening benediction or induction or whatever you called it, I probably would have hoped for that we head toward that that virtue or that goal, and I guess that's what I'd start off with. The reason I am here to speak is I am a property owner, and the last thing we probably want to talk about with my opening comment is the parking garage, but I have 3 or 4 parcels in the immediate area, and I'm maybe going to toss a little different angle than you've heard before as far as the parking garage. I would probably, and I don't speak for the owners in that area, but I know most of the owners on Brown on 1st and 2nd, and there is no question that a parking garage, extra parking is needed in that area. I think that, and I had talked to a few council members, and not that I want to get on sides of this issue, but if needed, I think I could get almost a unanimous agreement of the actual owners of the real estate in the area that they'd like to see the parking garage, a parking garage built, whether it's in that specific site. I'll talk a little about that, but it would like to be built. Nobody would say, no, not a good idea. Everyone loves the farmer's market, not about the farmer's market. There's no one that doesn't love it. It's got to be somewhere. It's not the farmer's market or the parking garage. A lot of public input went into it. It's not that this came out of nowhere and no one got notice. An awful lot of time went into it, and the idea that, oh my God, this just came out of nowhere is not the case. I was involved in a lot of it and watched it. Reasons why I think it should be in this location, and if you could give me another 30 seconds if I run out of time. It was mentioned it was designed for it, it's there. I believe it's on the south edge of downtown. It's not in the heart. It's closer to the medical. It's not going to ruin the Mission Church. Everyone loves the Mission Church. It's not going to ruin the blacksmith shop. Will there be disruption? Yes. There was a disruption in Civic Center Park for 2 to 3 years, and it's a beautiful park, and it was worth all the hell, and we're glad it's there. The same with this. Can I have another minute? I'm getting to
If you could just wrap up as quickly as possible, in fairness to everybody
Okay,
else.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
All the other garages also went through the same thing. They're in use in downtown and they get used. They would cost 4 or 5 times more to be built. I want to talk about Mayor Borowski a little bit also, in that I know her. I do not believe that she would have ever wanted this as the campaign, or not, it's not even a campaign, that this would cause the amount of array. Do I think she was sincere in her wishes that it could be in a different location or better? Yes. Is it self-serving? Absolutely not. I don't think it's to help a consultant who builds massive buildings and could care less about a design fee for his thing. And if at this point, if there was a better location and Mayor Borowski wanted to go for it, everyone would applaud it and whatever. I don't think there is, personally, as someone who's lived in the area, and thanks for hearing the comments.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate those comments. Michael Schaefer. will be the last speaker.
Chair, Mayor, people of Scottsdale. I love Scottsdale. I've lived in here since 1982. I think most of us love Scottsdale, and we appreciate the challenges that have come forth in Scottsdale. Too many large apartments, many other things going on simultaneously. We were thrilled at the recent election, the past election. We were thrilled with the complexion of this board. We were thrilled by the belief and hope and understanding that there would be a great alignment with the board. I know a number of you personally. I like those of you that I know very much. And I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, and are prayerful that we sometimes recognize in our world, those of us that are Christian, read the Bible, that we are affected by principalities and darkness. And those can come across a legislative District 4, which I am involved in, and it can come across just in our politics from top to bottom. We see it everywhere in our country. And so I just want to provide encouragement and support to the board in its entirety, that when it seems like there's no way, we make a way to come back together, to unite and find the common ground. Not all of you are going to agree all the time on all things. It's impossible. And many of us here don't agree on a number of things, and we're all citizens. But I just want to extend hope, support, anything that we at Legislative District might be able to do to help bring things together, to put the past behind us. Recently, I was in a similar deliberation, very difficult situation, and the Bible tells us to forgive and forget. And I'm just hopeful that it's possible to just put the past behind and restart, just reset the computer, reboot the computer, and come back together. And we will support you in any way we can to bring that back together. Just thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. That concludes the non-agendized public comment. And next I will move on to the meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting and work study session minutes of April 22nd, 2025, special meeting minutes of May 6th, 2025, executive session minutes of May 6th, 2025, regular meeting and work study session minutes of May 6th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate your vote. Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda items 1 through 21A. Let's see here.
Madam Mayor, was the food bank going to present?
Oh, we did. Sorry. Yes. I would like to back up. Beep, beep, beep. And we are going to do, we skipped over Kira's food bank presentation. So let me see, where are we here? Tonight we have a presentation, forgive me, Kira, my apology. We have a presentation on the Scottsdale Food Bank, and presenting this evening are Kira Peters and Sue O. Kira is Senior Director of Library and Human Services, and Sue is Scottsdale Human Services Manager. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Borowski, Vice Mayor DeBoscus, and members of City Council. Sue and I are here tonight to give a brief presentation on the Scottsdale Food Bank. Scottsdale Food Bank has recently moved to a new location on McKellips and Miller Road. And just for brief history on the food bank, the Scottsdale Food Bank has been located at Vista del Camino Community Center for approximately 47 years. We were getting to a spot where we were outgrowing that food bank, and really the Human Services Department looking for more space for community connection. And we really thought if we can find a new location for the food bank, we can offer more recreation programs at Vista del Camino. So because because of Sue and the work of her team, we were able to successfully expand our food bank to this new location, and we're going to have some great images and talk briefly about that tonight. Just an overview of a food bank, which most of you might already know, but basically in our food bank we have food boxes that include fresh produce, protein, dairy, hygiene products, pet food, diapers for vulnerable citizens in our community. We've got ready-to-eat bags. We have got a bread program at Vista del Camino that you can just come in, pick up a loaf of bread, whatever you might need, and head out on your way. We have a Healthy Packs program that benefits children in the Scottsdale Unified School District system if they are food insecure at their home. And we also support the Brown Bag Food Program at the Granite Reef Senior Center for seniors in our community that are food insecure. And then finally, Human Service has several sites, including the 2 senior centers, Paiute Neighborhood Center, and again, Vista del Camino. All of those locations serve as satellite areas if a person is in an emergency situation and needs some food. So here are some pictures of the food bank expansion. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that the food bank was located at Vista del Camino, and you will see here some pictures, hopefully you can see them pretty well, the tiny space at Vista del Camino that we were operating in. And you can see the trucks coming in too, that we really were having some safety concerns with big trucks coming in to drop off food, residents coming in to pick up their food. So really, this expansion was much needed. And these are just some images of the breakdown of Vista del Camino to prepare for the expansion. Here are some happy pictures of us moving into the new location. You can see warehouse style, a lot of space. Staff did a lot of research on how successful food banks operate, and most all operate out of warehouse-like settings. There's a place you can see here to store the food. We've got a place for volunteers to work to pack the bags. We had a happy grand opening celebration. Several council members were there to celebrate with us. Thank you, and we had that in the spring. So we are all moved in and serving the community well. Speaking of community, these are the residents that we serve at the food bank. Scottsdale residents, Scottsdale seniors, school district, Scottsdale Unified School District, and people and families who are experiencing homelessness. So those are the people using our food bank. These are just some statistics on the food bank, and I think the ones that are most important to note are towards the bottom. Unduplicated households, so this is through March of 2025, and we had 533 households come to pick up food from the food bank, and that is a total value of approximately $596,000 of support offered to these families in need. And then also the Healthy Pack program, which is a program for the students, and 349 students were served through this program put together at the food bank. This is a great picture that Sue, my colleague, often points out to, because many people think of a food box. You're just picking up this box full of canned food. Take a look at what's offered here. It is fresh produce, it's vegetables, it's meat, it's dairy, and this is what is offered to people in need when they come in. So it's really healthy, great food, and a good amount of it, especially depending on your family size. So we love to show this picture of our food box. These are a few stats continued. The food bank really operates on donations. So it's not us going out and buying food, it is donations coming in. And so the amount of donated and rescued food equals 435,000 pounds of food that are donated to the food bank. And that's an approximate value of $972,000. And then also, Mayor Borowski was recognizing a volunteer, and we've got some amazing volunteers that are at the food bank that contributed through March 202,937 hours, and that was just in March, so that number has increased. So very grateful for all the donations that make this program operate. Sources of support. So how do we get this? How do we get the food into the food bank? We've got a partnership with St. Mary's Food Bank and a strong partnership with an amazing nonprofit, Scottsdale Community Partners, that support the work that we do in the food bank through these bulleted items here to help us get emergency food boxes, grocery rescue, and weekly delivery. We also work with St. Vincent de Paul. We receive grant fundings from the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. Obviously, we also get some community donations. People will do food drives. We're always looking for grants, and we'll always accept monetary donations. Just the staffing and some of the costs, we have got 5 personnel that work in the food bank, and this is where the general fund dollars do go, is to the staffing costs. And those staffing costs for those 5 employees, of which Sue is one of them, totals around $230,000 annually for those 5 employees working in the food bank to serve the community. As I get close to the end, I love this slide here because these are our volunteers and it's pretty impressive. 30+ volunteers work weekly in the food bank. They sort donation, organize our donated products, make the ready-to-eat bags, and assist with the food box appointments. And then we also have group volunteering opportunities. So if there's businesses or organizations that want to come together as a group to support community in this work, Sue's staff will work with them to schedule a time. Not only is it meeting a community need, it's a great team-building activity to do something good together. So with that, that's the brief presentation on the food bank, and Sue and I are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman McAllen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Kira and Sue. Just some comments. The food bank, the expansion, it's beautiful. I was there for the opening. It's come full circle. I'm really happy that we're also working with other departments to bring a trolley, hopefully soon. We discussed that recently, and you're already working on that, to bring a trolley from other parts of Scottsdale to get people who cannot drive to the food bank, because it is a little further away than the original Vista del Camino food bank. But full circle, as you're talking about healthy packs, I'm sitting up here, I'm looking at our assistant city manager, Jeff Walter, who helped create the Healthy Packs program more than 10 years ago with a group of people from Scottsdale leadership. I think Chris Irish was the director back then. I was the mentor for Jeff. So full circle, how our community supports our community. And it hasn't gone away. The need hasn't gone away for it. So I want to applaud you for all your efforts and all the wonderful things you've been doing since you became the director over that department. But that the need, not only was it needed 10 years ago, it has escalated in our community, and we're still answering that need. So congratulations on all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thanks to both of you, and I concur with what was just said. And I think the trolley's already in place, because I know at Granite Reef Senior Center, we're telling our brown bag customers that there'll be a trolley to the new location. So I do think that's in place. So anybody who knows me knows that I'm going to talk about the full circle here, and what I'm so excited about. And of course, I've been with this, with one of the programs for a long time. But what I'm really excited about is the food rescue, which you just breezed right through. But I just want to stress to people that we're feeding people, not landfills. So this group, this department is rescuing however many tons you had up there on the screen of food and using it to feed people. That's really exciting to me. I'm also always excited about the food that doesn't feed people, but then turns into compost and then is used on local farms to grow more food. Do you happen to have the number handy of how many tons are composted?
Mayor Borowski, Councilwoman Whitehead, actually Jonathan just told us that 31,000 pounds was composted in the last fiscal year.
Talk about full circle and making sure that we use every bit of food in a positive way. So I'm just super excited. I can't wait to see the new location. I like the picture with my colleague in it. But good job, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor DeBoscus.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Jonathan, thank you so much for the work that you do every day. It's a pleasure to volunteer and see it for myself. The work that you do, the compassion that you show to the individuals. We heard some really heartbreaking stories, and I have a lot of respect for the work that you do. One of the things that you said, Jonathan, is that this is an opportunity for a family that may be near homeless. If we can help them, give them what amounts to probably a couple $100 worth of food. 200 pounds of food for a family of 4 is a lot of food. If we can help folks in that way and keep them in their homes, I think that's a wonderful solution, especially because these food is coming to us through donations, and so we're utilizing it effectively and efficiently. the really surprising thing about it is when you load up a giant cart, you start with a watermelon, and then a loaf of bread, and then spaghetti squash, and then tomatoes. They have a refrigerator full of more eggs than the grocery store, and strawberries, and it's just lovely to see all the fresh, healthy food that's going out into the community. So I just want to thank you deeply from my heart for all the work that you're doing. This is really meaningful. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation and good job. Oh, Councilman Clausman, sorry about that. You guys snuck in there. Clausman.
Well, that's no problem, no problem. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wonderful presentation. As a former volunteer, growing up in Tucson at the Tucson Community Food Bank, and through El Rio, this is so important. This is a curveball. Just want to give you just a quick preparation. As a former member for Arizona Sportsmen for Wildlife Conservation, I want to know if there is an availability currently, or if something that I can help work with your team to be able to provide sportsmen in Scottsdale and throughout the valley to be able to bring properly processed game meat to the food bank. There's always a glut, and this is something that Game and Fish has talked about pretty much on an annual basis. I understand that some wild game like bear needs to be prepared in a very specific way, but deer meat and other meats can be provided. I understand that this is a marginal aspect of what the food bank can provide, but bringing more people involved in the food bank has its own reward to bring more volunteers, more donations, not just of the specific activity. Just want to get people who are involved in one activity involved in our community in a very different way.
Thank you. Councilman Graham.
Mayor Borowski and Councilman Clausman, we do have a permit through Maricopa County Public Health, so we will definitely make sure that that's allowable. And with our partnership with St. Mary's and Scottsdale Community Partners, we're always short on protein, so we would love to see if we can get those kind of donations at our food bank. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Councilman Clausman and Sue. And now we'll move on to Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Kira and Sue, very good presentation. I know the food offerings that are put forward to participants are exceptional, and they stack up way above and beyond any other food bank in the area, probably the whole valley. People can, I know it was on there, but I just want to underscore and highlight, people can also bring pet food, is that correct? Can you say just a little more about that?
Yes, Mayor Borowski, Councilman Graham. We do ask everybody calling in for an appointment if they have pets, if they have babies, and what those needs are. If they do need pet food, we are always getting donations of pet food, and we have a small grant that can purchase pet food. So we do always have pet food on hand, and we give it out to anyone that needs dog or cat food. And sometimes we actually get bird food as well.
Bird food, ferret food, who knows, right? Okay. Well, thank you, Kira, Sue. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, well done. Thank you very much for the presentation and update. All right, now resuming, we'll move toward the consent agenda items 1 through 21A. Do any members of the council have questions or any discussion for consent agenda items? Seeing none, we received no public speakers on the consent agenda items, and so now I will entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda items, number 1 through 21A.
Mayor, I motion to approve a consent agenda items 1 through 21A.
Thank you. All those in favor, please indicate your vote. All right. Moving right along to the regular agenda items. First, we have item number 22, which is the City Council review and possible reconsideration of the Development Review Board's April 17th, 2025 decision regarding BB Living at Cabazon, which was case number 35-DR-2024, which approved design plans for a new 191-unit townhome community on an approximate 18-acre site with a planned community district, planned air park core zoning. And this evening, we'll start with Principal Planner Greg Bloomberg, who will provide the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski, Vice Mayor Dubaskus, and council members. Greg Bloomberg with Current Planning. Here to give you, I know you got a lot on your plate tonight, so I'll just give you a brief introductory presentation. And I will point out that since you are acting as the board tonight, I do have material and color boards should you wish to see those. I'm here to give you, again, an introductory presentation of BB Living Project. This site is located within the Cavasson Master Plan, which is 130 plus acres, bordered by the 101, Hayden Road, Legacy, and 76th Street. Presently, the only development in the Cavasson area is in that southeast quadrant. You have the Nationwide building, 2 office buildings, including the Choice Hotel's headquarters building, retail building, and a hotel. And the site outlined here in yellow is the site we're talking about tonight. So just a quick timeline on how we got here. On April 17th, 2025, the Development Review Board did review this case and approved it with a vote of 5-1. And then on May 6th, 2025, the City Council voted to review the DRB's decision with a 4-3 vote. So at that May 6th hearing, there were a few issues raised, but I'm just summarizing here. There was a concern raised that the colors were not compatible to the area and that the project design is not contextually compatible to the surrounding area. So this is just for your reference, a copy of the site plan and landscape plan. It's 191 townhome units on about 18 acres with a central amenity area and quite a bit of streetscaping and landscaping along the perimeter. So there were 2 different, that's primarily what we're here to talk about tonight, I believe anyway, is the building elevations and the building design. There were 2 themes introduced to the board or presented to the board at the 417 hearing. One was the modern desert prairie theme, which I'm showing you here. There is some stacked stone, or at least a stone element, and stucco with a shake roof element as part of this particular design. And then here's the materials for that modern desert prairie. These materials and colors are all consistent with the sensitive design principles, which is our primary guide when we're reviewing building designs. Again, mainly stucco with some stone veneer and various shades of earthen colors. And then the other theme that was considered was the Spanish theme. This is a little different. It does indeed have stucco. There is some stacked stone, but the roof element is mission tile as opposed to the shake. And then this is the previously approved materials and colors for that theme. And it's my understanding there may be some updates to the building design that the applicant would like to present to you. So without further ado, I will defer to Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Greg. And now we have an applicant presentation provided by John Berry with Berry Riddell.
Mayor, members of the council, for your record, John Berry, 6750 East Camelback Road in Scottsdale. With me this evening is the BB Living team, which includes the architect, which presented at the DRB hearing back in April. And also with the team is Brandon Lombardi. So I asked Brandon to identify himself in case if this gets built and you don't like it, you know who to call. But the real reason is because Brandon is the president of BB Living. And so we're very happy to have him here this evening. Mayor, members of the council, Scottsdale is unique. Our community is unique. Our community is committed to high quality design. And our community is also the home, the corporate headquarters of BB Living. In fact, BB Living's headquarters is located at Scottsdale Road and Indian Bend. There are executives and employees that are proud to call Scottsdale home. Now, from that headquarters building in Scottsdale, BB Living has been successful. They have built communities in 5 different states and 20 cities, including some in the Valley and states outside of Arizona. Now, this is the first time that BB Living will build a community in its hometown in Scottsdale. And I will tell you that Brandon Lombardi, the president of BB Living, they have 5 other communities under review and consideration and construction at this time, and he was not active in the design of these elevations for his first hometown project here. Now, one of the things I can tell you unequivocally, is that Brandon Lombardi is now fully engaged in the design of this project, and he recognizes the importance of this to his hometown company. So with that in mind, I want to tell you that there's a few things I'd like to give you a little background on before we get to the images and the comparisons. But this community, this proposal that staff showed you briefly, has 29% more open space than required. This is not putting 10 pounds in a 10-pound bag. It is gated. All the townhomes are 2-story. They each have a 2-car, and they're proud to say, oversized garage, so that you can get 2 cars in there and you don't have to squeeze, or there's some room for storage in there as well. They are all 3 or 4 bedroom townhomes. They all have backyards. Now, as you would expect in Scottsdale, this proposal for this neighborhood has amenities that you might think read like a resort in North Scottsdale. Let me give you just a quick list of a partial list of some of those amenities. You got to have the obligatory pool, but this has cabanas. There will be a full outdoor kitchen, not just a barbecue, but a full outdoor kitchen, a dog park, sport courts, game lawn, a virtual golf driving range, does not consume any water, a playground and a tot lot, a fitness center, including cold plunge and sauna, and an entertainment pavilion that will include an outdoor bar, outdoor TVs, and barbecues. So with that in mind, let's go to the PowerPoint. So I want you to keep in mind that this piece of property, and you're acting as the DRB, not as the City Council. This piece of property is hard zoned, has the right to develop up to 400 apartments on this site. And in fact, the permitted zoning allows heights up to 84 feet on this piece of property. And in fact, 3 years ago, there was a DRB application that came through and was approved, but expired, was approved for 400 apartments at this location. These are the elevations for those 400 apartments. We're here with a request for 191 townhomes. Now, what you see on the screen are elevations from the DRB hearing back in April, which precipitated this appeal to DRB, or to you acting as the DRB. These are some additional images that were presented by the applicant back in April at the DR hearing, and these are images of existing construction for communities they have in other cities around the valley or other states. Now, before I show you the pictures, I want to kind of go through some. I'm not an architect. I'm not even going to fake it, but let me just go through the list prepared by the great architects that BB Living has. There's a significant amount of stone that was added on all 4 sides of these townhomes. There are these Juliet balconies with wrought iron that were added as well. They added deep recesses to break up the massing of the building. They added roof elements to the buildings in order to break up the massing as well. They added these accent windows with wrought iron detailing on them. The overhangs on the roof were increased by 50% to create more shade and shadow on these buildings. The gables and the overhangs were increased as well. The roof and facades were also modified to reduce massing. The garages were recessed as well, and the roof elements were changed as well. The elevations on the sides of these townhomes were articulated with stone, There were additional deep recesses and more stone added. They added a porch element in stone and arched it in order to emphasize the entrance, and they decorated that with wrought iron detailing as well. They also, and I don't know about you, how many of you have pavers on your driveway? Most of us have concrete. These townhomes will have pavers on their driveways. So here are the pictures. This is where we are today. Now this is looking at the front of these townhomes, tilted a little bit so you can see how the buildings and the massing and the roof lines and how it breaks up the massing of these buildings with these changes that were just described in those prior slides. Now this is the front of the townhomes now looking straight on instead of at an angle. And again, you can see the quality and the additions that I described in the prior slides. This is zooming in on the front of these townhomes. And again, you see the stone, you see the pavers, you see the Juliet balcony on the second floor off to the left. This does not look anything like 400 apartments that could be up to 84 feet in height, permitted by right under the current zoning. This is the back of the townhomes, the rear of the townhomes. Again, you can see the roof elements, the stone, again, the decorative windows with wrought iron on them. This is now, again, looking. This is show and tell. This is compare and contrast. This is before and after. On the top is the front of these townhomes that was approved at DRB. And below is the revised, what we're proposing this evening. And you can see the differences on the front of these buildings. This is the back of the townhomes. On the top is what was presented at DRB, and at the bottom is what we're proposing today. Clearly substantial, meaningful, architectural, material changes to the elevations. These are the ends of the townhome buildings. On the top is what was approved at DRB. Below is the revision that we're bringing forward today. Again, just a quick glance tells you that these are major changes. This is the other end of the townhomes. Again, at the top, what was presented at DRB, and below where we are today, significant changes. This is the revised material board. As staff noted, we have the actual samples if you want them. These don't show as well as they are in real life, but in the middle column at the bottom, you can see the wrought iron. That's actually not that color. It's not a black color. It's actually a dark brown, let's call it. And on the far right-hand column, those are the pavers that will be used on the driveways, the type of paver. Mayor, members of the council, this is, again, to remind you, the images that were presented at DRB. And to remind you as well, this is not 400 apartments that were approved previously, but these were the elevations approved by DRB some 3 years ago. In conclusion, Mayor, members of the council, Scottsdale is unique. Our community is unique. And BB Living and Brandon Lombardi know that Scottsdale is unique, and they are committed to quality just as our city is. This becomes a legacy project. This becomes a showcase, a showpiece for BB Living for their communities throughout the country. Brandon Lombardi is aware of the importance of quality to our community. What's been the result of this involvement and these revisions to the plans and the elevations? This is a project that is uniquely Scottsdale, and it is a project that is now right for Scottsdale. Mayor, members of the council, I would respectfully request that if you were to move forward with this case, that you affirm the decision of the April 17th DRB approval with the revisions in accordance with the resubmittal to city staff on June 3rd, which embodies all of these changes that you have seen presented to you this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions. I understand you may have a public comment, but I'm happy to answer any questions or wait until after public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take the public comment, Dan Isaac, and then we'll open it up for council questions.
Mayor and council, Dan Isaacs, address still on record. Coming to this meeting, I had no opinion on the design of the project, but after hearing what the petitioner and our developer has put together, I don't understand why there would be any objections to this. But I am speaking because I have a strong opinion about wasting council's time on this matter. Jan, your role on the DRB is to address these issues within the DRB. The reason we have boards and commissions is to lessen the burden of city staff and the council so they can attend to more pressing matters. For example, maybe keeping a Fortune 100 company here. But you, Jan, chose to remain silent during the DRB meeting. And you ambushed the rest of the DRB and the petitioner by bringing it to council. You are wasting time and money. I can only think of one reason you would do so. In polite company, it's called grandstanding. You wanted a bigger audience to show your commitment to preserving the look and feel of Scottsdale. The DRB wasn't big enough for you, nor was your op-ed in the paper. So once again, you've decided that politics trumps the needs of Scottsdale. Funny that you are concerned with this project, but support destroying the most historic part of Old Town with an unneeded parking garage that will be taller than one of only a dozen nationally recognized historic buildings in all of Scottsdale. This, along with your petty name-calling, demonstrates
Point
who
of
you
order,
are,
Madam Mayor.
and it's not good. What's your point of order, Adam?
I'll take it from here. Point of order, you've called for a point of order.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my understanding, and Ms. Scott, can you please give us a ruling on this in terms of the narrowness and the scope of any public comment regarding this specific application?
I'll go ahead and comment on that, and then if, Sherry, if you disagree with me, and please keep your comments, just like everybody else, to the scope of this agenda item, which is the BB Living project, which I believe that you are doing, so. Go right ahead, unless you disagree, Sherry.
Mayor and Councilman Quasman, I do agree that the public comment needs to be relevant to the agenda item that we're discussing.
Yes, me too. Thank
Okay.
you, if you'll proceed
So,
with the comments relevant to the agenda item.
I was actually done, but as I said at the beginning, I hope that the council stops wasting time and supports this petition because it meets all of the requirements of our design. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, starting with Councilman Graham.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Berry, good presentation, as always. When I compare the before and after of those images, there's no comparison. This is going to be a better product. Would you agree with that?
Mayor Borowski, Councilman Graham, my job is not to agree or disagree with the design. I'm not an architect, nor did I ever stay at a Holiday Inn. But that's for the DR acting to determine whether this design is more appropriate. We believe it is, and hope that you would find so. Thank you.
I want to commend Vice Mayor Dabauskas for bringing this to the council, and this is about better architecture in Scottsdale, and this project is exceptionally better than what it was. Vice Mayor Dabauskas used all the necessary, proper, appropriate channels, and the residents of Scottsdale, particularly those in the north, in this section of the city, I think will be appreciative of the additional investments that are going to be made to the design elements and the architectural quality that's going to bring higher quality of life in this area. So, a good presentation, and I will be supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Berry. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Dabauskas.
Thank you, Mr. Berry, and thank you, BB Living, very much for being open and receptive to the feedback and for coming to us with a superior product. This is beautiful. I live in the area, as I mentioned. My parents do as well, just down the street, and this looks like something that would be there already, but it's going to be new and beautiful. So I'd like to make a motion, and Greg, can you help me with what the motion should be? As Mr. Berry recommended, is it to accept the DR decision with the applicant's updates?
Mayor Borowski and Vice Mayor Dubaskus, I will ask Ms. Scott to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the motion would be to approve or uphold the Development Review Board's decision, but with the changes presented tonight.
Mayor, I apologize, Vice Mayor, if I could, please note that that would be in accordance with the revisions submitted to staff on June 3rd to reflect these changes.
So moved.
Second.
Yes, Councilwoman Whitehead.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, BB Living. Thank you, Mr. Barry. I'm supporting this project, obviously, and I am for a number of reasons. Number one, I am really, really excited to have 400 apartments not get built, and I'm even more excited to have 191 homes get built. So we know there's a housing shortage, but I don't believe it's apartments. People are looking for homes. They're looking for yards. They're looking for garages. They're looking for dog parks. And so with the revisions too, I really think those add a lot of value. So I also want to say that it's always nice to have a local development team. So for many, many reasons, I'm really enthusiastically supporting this project. Thank you for bringing homes, new homes, the middle housing to Scottsdale.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments. So with that, we will indicate our votes to the motion to approve with those modifications.
That's good.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we move on to item 23, which is the truth in taxation and public hearings on the proposed fiscal year 2025-26 property tax levy. This item solicits public testimony on the proposed fiscal year 2025-26 property tax levy, and by roll call vote, consider possible approval of a motion, to levy the proposed property taxes to be assessed by ordinance on June 24th, 2025. Presenting this evening is City Treasurer Sonia Andrews, who will be discussing a recent revision to the proposed property tax. I now open the public hearing, and we will take public testimony, which we have one speaker, Brian Scott. Is Brian here? I don't see Brian Scott, so we will go ahead and move on. I now close the public hearing. Do I have any questions from the council before I request a motion to approve? Oh, Sonia is going to speak first. Sorry.
Thank you,
I'm
Mayor.
getting way ahead of myself. I must be I must be hungry.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is a revised presentation for the proposed property tax rate and levy for fiscal year 25-26. There was a late revision where we removed an additional levy that was originally in the proposed tax rate and levy for the quasi-Meyer refunds, which we lost revenues on. So that's been removed, and this presentation will reflect that. Next slide. Before I begin with the proposed property tax for next year, I wanted to go over some property tax basics. Next slide. Our property taxes are assessed by different taxing districts as shown on this slide. The city's property taxes are only 15% of the total property taxes that is being assessed, being made up of the primary component and the secondary component. Currently, in this fiscal year, the city's property tax rate for a residential owner-occupied home is $6, and most of that goes to schools, counties, and districts, and the city's tax rate is the 50 cents and the 43 cents for a combined 93 cents per $100 of assessed value. The tax rate is applied to a limited property value to arrive at the actual amount of property taxes paid. So next slide. So in the current year, the limited property value, which is not the same as the market value for a Scottsdale residence, the median, which is the middle, is $391,864. And applying the 93 cents, our current property tax rate for residents is computes to $364.43 of the total 2,351 tax bill. Again, limited property taxes is not the same as market value. So next slide. Limited property value is lower than the fair market value or full cash value. The annual increase is restricted by law to 5%. So even if the market value increases significantly, the limited property value increase is limited to 5%. And then again, the limited property value is then used to calculate property taxes. Next slide. And I said earlier, there's two components to the city's property taxes. The primary component, which is assessed for general fund and tort settlements, and the secondary component, which is assessed for the debt service on voter-approved bonds. Next slide. So at the current property tax rate, we are one of the lowest property tax rates when compared to our peer cities in the valley. Next slide. Now moving on to what we're proposing for 25-26. Next slide. Our proposed property tax rate for 25-26 combined is 91.2 cents, which is a 2.1% decrease from the current tax rate of 93.2. Both of the components are decreasing, and I will go over each of those components and why they're decreasing. Next slide. This is the primary property tax component. This current year is at 50 cents, or more specifically 49.6 cents. And it's decreasing based on these components you see on the slide. Primarily, the appreciation of the assessed value reduces the property tax rate. We also have that's offset by an increase because of the allowed 2% maximum levy increase, but then it's then offset by a reduction in the levy that's needed for our tort settlements. New construction also contributes to the levy. So overall, with those components, our tax rate is going down from 49.6 cents to 48.9 cents, and our levy is going to go up from 39.6 million to 40.3 million. Next slide. For the secondary property tax component, the change in our secondary property tax rate is due to mostly to the reduction in the amount needed for debt service. So our levy is pretty much staying the same at 34.8 million for both years. And primarily the rate goes down because we don't need to assess that much because the assessed value has gone up. So next slide. So at the 91.2 cents that's proposed for fiscal year 25-26, and because of the increase in the value of the property, the actual property tax to be paid is pretty much flat. So there is a 2%, almost 2% increase in the assessed value, but then a 2% reduction in the rate. So net is going to be about the same. Next slide, and then again, at that 91.2 cents, we remain one of the lowest in the valley. Next slide. Adopting the property tax is a two-step process. Today, we're asking council to hold the public hearing and adopt a motion to levy the property tax, and on June 24th, council will be asked to adopt the property tax levy and fix the actual rates. Next slide. So this is the action that we're requesting of council. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Sonia. I don't see any requests to speak by the council, but I will check to see if Brian Scott is here. No. Okay. Anyone have any questions on this one? Vice Mayor DeBascos.
So property tax rate will come down, 2.1%. That's music to my ears, Sonia. Thank you for this wonderful news. Thank you.
Yeah, it's coming down.
All right, seeing no other speakers, I now close officially the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion to approve the tax levy.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor indicate, roll call vote. Yes. You can take it from here.
Okay.
Clerk Lane.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski,
Affirm.
Vice Mayor Jan DeBoskis,
Yes.
Council Members Barry Graham,
Yes.
Adam Quasman, Kathy Littlefield,
Yes.
Marianne McCowan,
Yes.
and Solange Whitehead.
Yes.
Mayor, the item passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 24 is a public hearing on proposed fiscal year 2025-26 municipal streetlight improvement district expenses and property tax levy. This item solicits public testimony on the proposed fiscal year 2025-26 municipal streetlight improvement district proposed expenses and tax levy, and considers possible approval of a motion to adopt the annual statements and estimates of expenses and levy, the proposed fiscal year 2025-26 municipal streetlight improvement district taxes. By district, taxes to be assessed by ordinance on June 24th, 2025. Presenting this evening on this topic is Anna Henthorn, Assistant City Treasurer.
Thank you.
I now open the public hearing.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This action is to solicit the public testimony on the proposed fiscal year 25-26 municipal streetlight improvement district proposed expenses and tax levy. The streetlight improvement districts were established in 1971 to allow taxpayers to pay for the operation of streetlights. The city has 357 streetlight improvement districts formed by petition of the property owners. The streetlight improvement districts are established for the sole purpose of purchasing electricity for lighting public streets. The city levies a special property tax based on the estimated electricity cost for each district. The operating cost for each district varies in relation to the electricity usage, number of streetlights, and whether they are serviced by APS or SRP. The city completes 357 separate property tax calculations for each district, representing 33,970 properties. Here is a map of the streetlight tax districts. The blue represents APS and the green represents SRP. The fiscal year 25-26 levy is $578,426 with an average levy per lot of $17.03, an average decrease of 72 cents per property lot from the prior fiscal year. Here is the action item, and again, it's to solicit the public testimony on the fiscal year 25-26 streetlight improvement districts, and I can answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't have any speakers on this item, so do I have any questions?
Mayor, I'll make a motion. A motion to levy the proposed fiscal year 25-26 SLID taxes by district, taxes to be assessed by ordinance on June 24, 2025.
Second. All those in favor, please indicate your vote. All right. Item 25 is the final public hearing on the fiscal year 2025-26 budget. This item seeks to solicit public testimony on the fiscal year 2025-26 operating budget and capital improvement plan as tentatively approved on May 20th, 2025. Presenting this evening on this topic is Sonia Andrews, City Treasurer, and I now open the public hearing. We will take public testimony first, and I don't, no speakers on this. So Sonia Andrews, let's go ahead and proceed.
Yes, I'm actually going to have our Budget Director, Scott Sleen, present that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Scott Saline, Budget Director. Before I start my presentation, I want to acknowledge that there have been a couple changes that have been posted and provided to the council. The first is that funding for the Thompson Peak Bridge capital project was adjusted. There was $5.2 million of expenditures that were moved forward from FY 27-28 to FY 26-27. This change does not impact either the FY 25-26 capital budget or the 5-year total CIP expenditures. And the other correction is the property tax issue that Sonia mentioned in her presentation about property tax. This is the adoption timeline. We're at the final step of the timeline tonight, which is a final public hearing and adoption of the FY 25-26 budget. Total budget is just over $2.2 billion, split up into $885 million for operating, $947 million for capital, and then $370.5 million in contingencies and reserves. This slide shows the details of the changes that were made in the tentative budget. There were 2 positions added to the mayor and council's office, which impacted both the operating budget and the reserves and contingencies at the bottom, and there were no changes to the capital budget, other than the Thompson Peak Bridge project that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. This slide compares the final budget to last year's adopted budget. When compared to FY 24-25, the current year's budget shows an overall reduction of $91 million and a reduction of 4%. Before going into the details of this slide, I want to emphasize that the proposed budget, the tentative budget, and the final budget have anticipated the specific changes to compensation and to the pay tables that are listed here on this slide. The budget contains the new police pay program, which makes step plan and market adjustments that will be effective on July 1, and longevity payments that will be effective on September 1st, and market-based adjustments to all ranks. The budget includes a market adjustment for all other employees of 2%. And then finally, the budget provides specificity to the city manager's organizational changes. These changes were also anticipated in the budget, and resources were allocated to carry them out. This brings me to the end of my presentation. There are slides that follow from the council retreat that were included as a resource this evening if there are any questions. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Scott. And Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Scott. Scott, can you say a little more about that Thompson Peak Bridge? It was just moved from fiscal 27 to fiscal 26. Is that, it was just, how does that affect the budget?
Funding was moved from year 3 of the 5-year CIP, which is fiscal year 27-28 to 26-27, year 2. Yeah. So it does not impact next year's capital budget or the aggregate 5-year CIP.
That's a bond 2019 project, correct?
Madam Mayor, I don't believe so, but I can get that information back to you.
Sonia seems to be wanting to say something. Allison Timke is about to. The city engineer, Ms. Timke, might have something to say.
Mayor, Councilmember Graham, yes, that is a bond 2019 project.
Okay, thank you. And so that was one of those 2019 bond deliverables. I've gotten a few questions about that project. When do you realistically kind of expect to see the project starting?
Mayor, Councilmember Graham, we're currently proceeding with the design of that project right now. So feasibly, we could be under construction in the next fiscal year, the following fiscal year.
And so that's going to add a bridge on the north side, right? So then the eastbound south side will be separated from the westbound north side?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Timke. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Graham. And just to be clear, we're not taking action at this point, right? This is the public hearing. You're not looking for a motion at this point.
Correct. I'm sorry, Mayor, was that question to the city attorney?
It doesn't matter, Sonia.
That is correct. That's all we're doing is the final public hearing.
And we don't have any, so final public hearing, we have no public testimony. So I'm closing the hearing, yes. I'm closing the hearing. Do you have a question?
Yes,
Okay,
Mayor.
sorry.
I am a little bit confused. I actually have some remarks about the budget, but there, our packet, and I have I'm having technology failure. I can't get my iPad up and running. But the packet that we received included the final budget and also the compensation package, and I don't have the verbiage. Is that the next item since I am operating without my iPad?
So that's, I think Councilwoman
Yes.
Whitehead is getting at the special meeting content.
That
Yeah.
is correct.
Yeah,
So
so
the
we're,
special meeting item 1 would be the adoption of the final budget, the 5-year capital improvement plan, and the fiscal year 25-26 job classification plan and pay table.
Oh, okay. All right. I will then wait for that. Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sonia.
thank you, Scott, and you're not going to have to wait too long. So what we're going to do now is recess the, I now close the public hearing, which is what we just did. So we'll recess the regular meeting and move directly to the special meeting, which now we have special SP1. I don't know why you're calling it special SP1, but okay, special meeting, which is the final adoption of the fiscal year 2025-26 budget estimates.
Point of order,
Go ahead.
Mayor, real quick. I'm sorry, Madam Parliamentarian, if I just may. Can we switch from the regular to a special meeting and go back? That's
Yes, you could recess the regular meeting.
Okay.
Hold the special meeting, adjourn the special meeting, and resume the regular meeting.
okay. I wasn't disputing what we were doing. I just wanted to make sure everything was. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, moving right along. Final adoption of the fiscal year 2025-26 budget estimates, 5-year capital improvement plan, and fiscal year 2025-26 job classification plan and pay table. This item requests 2 actions. The first is adoption of ordinance 4670, setting the final budget estimates for the fiscal year 2025-26 budget as tentatively approved on May 20th, 2025, adopting the final fiscal year 2025-26 job classification plan and job classification pay table in conformity with Scottsdale revised code sections 14 through 20 through 14 through 24. And authorizing or approving as applicable certain salary adjustments included in the final budget for city employees and charter officers, and setting the salaries of the presiding judge and associate judges. The second is the adoption of ordinance 4671, approving the capital improvement plan for the period beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2030. Presenting this evening is Sonia Andrews. Do we have a second presentation? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Just one slide. Oops. This is the only slide in my presentation. It provides the necessary council action in order to adopt the budget. Happy to entertain any questions.
And this refers back to the presentation we just saw. So Councilwoman Whitehead.
Well, this is just moving along speedily. So I do have some remarks about the budget. I see it as an opportunity for unity. I'm thinking we're going to have a 7-0 vote, and I got to tell you, that always feels nice. And I guess like a product of any healthy democratic process, there are items, expenditures in this budget that I champion. Some of these expenditures I support, and then I do have some concerns. I want to stress that this budget is powered by the fiscal discipline and the good policies of past councils, and it is funded primarily by our voters that have repeatedly gone to the ballot box to support taxes that cost each of us just a little bit amount of money, but deliver that which none of us could afford without each other. I want to talk about where that funding is coming from, and that I support the continued investment in our infrastructure and new parks from the 2019 voter-approved bonds. And I support water infrastructure investments and transfer stations that are turning our waste into valuable resources. The 2018 transportation tax, which is improving our roads for all users. And of course, Prop 490, which is doing that which most communities don't do, and setting aside money for maintenance of all the things that we already approved and built. I also commend the voters for approving 491, which is key, Proposition 491, which is key to our police pay program. I didn't champion, but I support the 41 million set aside to improve our roads. But my cautionary statement there is the success of this investment will depend on how we prioritize and use those funds. And we're all now very aware of investments made in 2010, in the 2010s, where we put pretty ahead of durability for our roads, and we're paying the price for that now. So I'll be watching closely for that. But finally, my concern is with some changes that have been made between the adoption of the preliminary budget and today's vote, and that pertains to the part of the packet that's part of the budget with pay grades. And for the voters out there, people are paid in government based on grades. And there were, and I'm not talking about I'm going to pull up my notes on this so I get it right. I am not talking about the police pay grade changes. Those have been extensively reviewed by, I think, all of us on council. But there have been some pay grades that are pretty steep, and this is not private sector. When it comes to paying our employees, we have to make sure that we're managing our tax dollars and that these increases are validated and justified through data and reports. So I haven't seen any of that. And so this is my concern. And I'm just going to give one example. And I'm going to tell you, this is always hard for me to do because the employees that fill these roles are people that I really like and respect. But it's still our duty to make sure that A, we're managing your tax dollars well, B, we can justify any expenditures, and C, we're transparent. And because this change was made, and because we haven't had a public presentation, and in fact, I've seen no documentation, that's why I'm calling it out in this. So the example I will give you is we had a position at the city that has gone up 7 grade changes in less than a year. So that's pretty significant. We're talking about almost $100,000 change in what that previous position was paid to what it could be paid with a new grade. So we went from 37 pay grade to 39 in November for this position, and included in this budget, we're going from 39 to 44. Now, is this justified? I don't know, and that's exactly why I'm pulling it. So I would like to make a motion, and I hope to get the support of my colleagues to adopt Ordinance 4670, setting the final budget estimates for the fiscal year 25-26 operating budget as tentatively approved on May 20th, and adopt Ordinance 4671, setting the 5-year capital improvement plan as tentatively approved on May 20th, 25. Now, I have a motion, an added motion pertaining to the pay grades. Would you like me to hold off on that until, I see it's not up there. Would you like me to read that? Would that be, I guess I'll ask this of the city attorney, if this would be the appropriate time.
Mayor and Councilwoman Whitehead, if I'm understanding your question, let me answer it this way. The adoption of Ordinance 4670 will include adopting the pay classification plan that has the changes that you're referencing. So if you can amend the pay classification plan by a motion and adopt ordinance 4670 with those amendments to the pay classification plan. You can do that in one motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I'll go ahead and do that. So I've made my motion, and I'm going to amend it to adjust the pay classification plan, or to accept the pay classification plan with the exception that no unsworn positions be increased by more than 2 grades without specifically returning to this council for a separate approval that includes information and justifications for the requested changes. I'm getting. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, thank you. Do I hear a second?
Can I speak to this?
Sure.
I think Councilwoman Whitehead might be referring to this study that we requested from the Human Resources Director, and it was just published today, so maybe she did not have time to review it. I'm just saying that.
Okay. Well, I don't hear a second, but I think that it's not transparent and it's not good governance to supply us with a document.
I'll second your motion. I
Okay.
mean, we can vote on it, but.
All right. So I do think that this is part of the very real problem I'm trying to show. This is not a criticism of any employer and any employee, but it is our job as a government to first be transparent and second be fully responsible for how we spend tax dollars. And I don't have time, I'm sorry, to read a report a couple hours before a meeting that is already pretty full, but thank you.
I don't see any, we have a motion and a second, so we're going to take a vote on it, but I just want to add that I have concerns about the same issue, in particular the dramatic leap, and I understand the logic because there have been structural changes in the city manager's plan to eliminate certain positions, specifically assistant city manager positions, and consolidate that into one position. But I do still have concerns about that dramatic of an increase. And there's a motion on the table, and if no one else has any comments, let's go ahead and take a vote on that. Yes, Councilwoman, for the benefit of all of us, including Councilwoman Littlefield, who just requested it, can you please repeat your motion?
Okay, sorry. She's trying to challenge me. Okay. I motion to adopt ordinance number 4670, setting the final budget estimates for fiscal year 25-26 operating budget as tentatively approved on May 20th, with an amendment to the pay classification plan that is an exception that no unsworn position be increased more than 2 grades tonight without specifically returning to council for a separate approval with information and justification, and I'm going to add and the opportunity to have a discussion on the changes.
Thank you. Did you hear that, Councilwoman Littlefield? Okay, great. Sorry, go ahead.
Mayor, sorry. Since there was an addition to that motion, can we just reaffirm the second?
Second.
I have a question before we vote on that motion. How many positions are impacted by that revision? Not more than 20% of a classification increase.
Madam Mayor, as I heard the motion, it was specifically to grade levels, and so I heard 2 grades, which doesn't necessarily translate to 20%, but I believe we are isolating one position. And I will just for the record indicate that this motion feels a lot like revisiting what we had a year ago, where there was a year and a half of extensive study, class, and compensation, and 6 positions were moved out of the consideration at the time by Councilmember Whitehead, and there was significant other positions that made movement, and that's why the November was referenced, because those 6 positions were modified in November versus the June, which was the initial scheduled time. Additionally, for the record, I did provide a response to Councilwoman Whitehead as to some initial explanation to the adjustments. This position was initially at 37 grade, and the class and compensation study referenced moving it to 40. It was subjectively pushed down to 39, and as you referenced, rightly so, Mayor, with the elimination of 2 assistant city manager positions. We used to have 3. We've reduced those to 1 based on that with internal and specifically movement within the police department and market analysis that was completed and provided today, as Councilwoman McAllen referenced, and actually in front of your dais today represents internal alignment and market analysis, which recommends and coincides with moving that to grade 44. So circling back specifically where you're talking about 1 position. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I do want to address that. Those positions I requested at that time that we have a presentation, and I was denied. We're giving our employees a 2% raise. I am not suggesting, and I want to talk about the fact that we are a 240,000 person city with 11 million visitors every year. We have lost the 2 assistant city managers that literally built this city. This is not a city that I think can operate well on 2 assistant city managers, and that's why Mr. Caton was hired, so that we could have 3 assistant city managers. So I think that the financial health that this council inherited is our superpower, but it's our Achilles heel as well. Because when you're flush with cash, and we're using vacancies as cash. Vacancies aren't cash. They're possibly positions we really need to fill. So the Achilles heel is when you're flush with cash, sometimes you don't spend as wisely as you should. And again, I want to stress, we're a government, perception matters, transparency matters, and the positions we were replacing were paid, thank you for your email, Greg, were paid in that $250,000 level, and this new level is well into the $300,000 a year. So listen, I value everybody. I especially value the people who pick up my trash and recycles, but I value all of you equally besides that. And I just think that our community deserves this transparency, a public discussion on how we spend your tax dollars, and how does this affect our future ability to fill these roles. Can I ask a question? And I have to tell you, having no pension ever, I've just never worked in that space. I don't even know how pensions work, so that's something I'll be looking into understanding more. But we are spending a tremendous amount of your tax dollars this year to pay down ballooning pension debt. Because when it comes to a government, the first thing we pay is debt. We pay debt before we hire a police officer. We pay debt before we maintain your parks. Debt comes first. And so why I'm questioning this is I don't want a future council to say, who the heck put us in this position where we can't even take care of our current residents because we're stuck with all this debt. So I just want to understand the impacts of pay grade changes and how that affects the whole system. And we didn't last year when I requested this. There was no public meeting to discuss it, and I think Our residents deserve to have that this time. And I will ask you, our charter officers, can somebody tell me what are the pay grades of our charter officers? I would really appreciate just knowing, because I haven't looked it up. So does anybody have that handy?
Councilwoman, if you give me just a second, I have them.
Mr. Lane, Charter Officer Lane has it.
Mayor, Councilwoman Whitehead, the grades for the charter officers are the city auditor is a 37, the city attorney is a 44, the city manager is a 48, the city treasurer is a 40, and the city clerk is a 37.
Okay, so that's a wide range. So, and again, I think the answer on the city charter officers kind of gives me more reason to believe that we need a public meeting to discuss this requested change, and it has no reflection on the people who fill these positions. Thank you.
City Manager, you've indicated a request to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to, for the record, to comment about the pay adjustments broadly across the organization. The 2% was referenced, and so what we do have is a 2% market adjustment, and then we have a 3% merit adjustment, and so those are eligible. And then for the individuals on the STEP plans, the STEPs move at 5%, and then also they're applicable for the market adjustments as well. So I just wanted to add that additional information.
Thank you, but Mr. Kane, the 2% plus the merit is for non-FD, non-PD, and the STEP is only FD and PD, correct?
Madam Mayor and Councilwoman Whitehead, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's easier for us to always support our firemen and policemen. I'm talking about the regular employee population. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move to approve Ordinance 4670, setting the final budget estimates for the FY 25-26 with the following changes. Removal of the management analyst or similar position from the mayor's office budget, and removal of one management associate position from the city clerk's office budget for council. It's there for council as needed, if needed. This will result in 2 management associate positions in the city clerk's office that support the council members, and a chief of staff and executive assistant in the mayor's office. I also move to approve Ordinance 4671, approving to the capital improvement plan for FY 25-26.
So Councilwoman Littlefield, there was a motion on the table with a second, so that is
okay.
Not your motion. So why don't we take a vote on the motion in the second place?
The motion I made, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Correct. There was a live motion and a second. So, and before we move on to any other motion, I'd like to take a vote on that one.
There. There.
Oh, you meant to do yes. You meant to do no.
Thank you. It passes.
Point of order.
No, point of order. I sit up here and listen to everyone telling others how to vote here. I'm going to just say that it's a little bit disturbing to listen to this. So as a point of order.
Point of order.
I'm fine. Give it.
This was for Solange's motion.
So I don't think it's appropriate for Councilman Graham to be questioning another
No.
council member.
No,
Mayor, I misunderstood what we were voting for. I wish to change my vote to a no.
Mayor, with changing the vote, it would fail 3-4.
It's fine. Let's just do it again, whatever, or change hers.
Okay, yeah, if you all would like to, I'm sorry, vote one more time.
And this is on Solange's motion.
Yeah, that's correct.
Sorry, it's just confusing.
Then I would like to, Madam Parliamentarian, can I consider Councilmember Littlefield's motion an alternate motion or a new motion?
She can just make the motion, Councilman Graham.
Yeah, it might be good for her to restate the motion because I don't think there was ever a second on the motion. It doesn't really matter to consider it an alternate motion at this point in time. It'll be the only motion on the floor.
I move to approve ordinance 4670, setting the final budget estimates for FY 25-26 with the following changes. Removal of management analysis or similar position from the mayor's office budget, and removal of one management associate position from the city clerk's office budget for the, and that would affect the council if needed. This will result in 2 management associate positions in the city clerk's office that support the council members, and a chief of staff and executive assistant in the mayor's office. I also move to approve ordinance 4671, approving the capital improvement plan for FY 25-26.
Second.
I have a question for the maker of the motion. You've stated that this will result in a management associate and a management analyst in the city clerk's office, but that's inaccurate. There was an approval unanimously to provide for the 2 positions, executive assistant and management associate, were moved into the city clerk's office for the benefit of the city council. That happened back at the last council meeting on this budget. And also, there was a unanimous approval to add a management analyst or equivalent, an executive assistant, back to the mayor's office. So the motion is, I'm just curious, Councilwoman Littlefield, are you trying to add a position to the clerk's office now? Because that was not a reflection of where we stood.
Removing an analyst or similar position from the mayor's office and removal of one management associate position from the city clerk's office. That position is in the city clerk's office for the benefit of the council's office, but it is not filled and hasn't been filled.
So where would that leave us then, in your opinion, at the mayor's office and at the council level?
The council level would, the actual members that are working for the council would stay the same. And the same would be true of the mayor's office at this time.
So that would be a management analyst in the mayor's office, an executive assistant in the mayor's office. And that would be an executive assistant, if it remains the same, in the city council office.
It would be chief of staff and executive assistant in the mayor's office.
And what in the clerk's office? I'm sorry, because now I'm very confused.
There's 2 positions in the budget for the clerk's office right now.
There's 3.
There's 3.
This makes it 2.
This makes it 2. So it just basically removes one of those positions.
And
from the budget.
Resulting in which positions? What are the two positions that are now in the clerk's office for the council? So we know, so I know what we're voting on.
They are a associate position in the clerk's office, from the city clerk's office, and they are position holders in the clerk's office. They've actually never been utilized.
Point of order, Madam Parliamentarian, is the motion clear enough?
I'm just going to have to be honest, I'm having trouble following the motion, but I do think my colleagues understand it, the city manager and the treasurer. They're the ones that are going to be implementing it.
Would you like me to repeat it?
Well, is it clear to the city manager?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Graham, yes, I'm clear on the motion.
Okay.
Would you mind repeating it then back?
I believe I would leave that to Councilwoman Littlefield to restate her motion if that be the case, but I'm happy to if you would like me to.
What I'm asking is, what direction are you taking from this motion? That's the question.
Okay, fair enough. Madam Mayor, I heard the motion to be that the removal of one management, I'll just state that if I need to go back, I'm happy to do the history of how we got to this point, but it's a removal of one position from the mayor's office as a management analyst and a removal of one from the city clerk's office, which supports city council, which is a management associate as well.
Thank you. Councilman Graham.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, I thought I was.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Can you put the slide up with the ordinances that were to make a motion? Thank you. Okay, I would like to make an alternate motion to adopt ordinance 4670, setting the final budget estimates for the fiscal year 25-26 operating budget as tentatively approved on May 20th, 2025, and adopt ordinance 4671, setting the 5-year capital improvement plan as tentatively approved on May 20th, 25.
Second.
All those in favor? Having failed, we'll go back to the original motion and take a vote.
If the lights go.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
You know, I have a question. I find the motion being offered to, this is putting us in a position. We just had 4 council members literally vote against the budget.
Point of order, is
and
this?
No, I am speaking, Mr. Graham. I would like to have.
Councilwoman Whitehead, you can always make a point of order.
Councilman Graham, please don't interrupt.
I would
There
like
is no point of order.
A point of order.
This is playing politics with our budget. Every single one of us up here wants to approve this budget. And to make these last-minute, unclear wranglings to remove the mayor's staff is holding this council hostage. I would like a clean vote on the budget as presented by this, unless there's a specific change she wants to make that is different from the tentative budget we approved to today's budget. The request I made wasn't because I was trying to change the budget that was approved in the last meeting, the tentative budget. What I was referring to in my motion was a change.
Point of order. Point of
and
order.
I do not want this council to be forced to vote against a good budget that we all worked on because there's some political maneuver to take away the mayor's staff. This is an outrage. And I would like to understand what our options are, and I would like that from the city attorney, not my colleague, Mr. Graham.
Okay. Point of order.
You're not speaking, you don't have the floor, Mr. Graham.
A point of order,
City
a rules of
Attorney-
procedure, Councilwoman Whitehead, the rules of procedure always.
Councilman Graham, you're out of order. We'll let the city attorney
City Attorney,
respond to
can
her
you
Rules of
please
question.
procedure, can a
respond
point
to
of
her?
order always be called?
Not for the sole purpose of interrupting a colleague.
Not the purpose.
Mayor and Councilwoman Whitehead, respectfully, the rules do provide that a point of order can interrupt another speaker. It can. It does not require a second. It's not debatable. It's not amendable. And it cannot be considered once raised, Mayor. A point of order requires a ruling by the presiding officer. That's, of course, the mayor. And if held to be an order, enforcement of order by the presiding officer.
I'm familiar with the rules. So what's your point of order, Councilman Graham?
My point of order is that we voted on a motion that failed, and then we were in the middle of voting when Councilwoman Whitehead just began speaking, and then we all of a sudden just inexplicably stopped voting.
So
does that comply with the rules of procedure passed by this council? You just, because someone is displeased with the vote, the way the vote's going, they can just start speaking and then we stop voting?
That's not what happened, so.
That's exactly what happened, Madam Mayor.
So was that your point of order? That's not what happened. Did you register any votes, Ben?
Yeah, there were 4 or 5 votes already registered.
Let's ask Ben.
Mayor, some individuals had voted yes.
Because it's flashed on my screen several times, not indicating that the vote was live. In fact, the buttons were all 3 lit up when I called on Councilwoman
And so my
Whitehead, but notwithstanding. So that's your point of order. Let's go ahead and take a vote, okay?
My point of order, Madam Mayor, is that just because one person on this dais is displeased with their perception of what's going, doesn't mean we stop voting in the middle of when voting has begun.
We've covered that, Councilman Graham. If that was the case, it was an error. There was screens flashing up and down. I did not see us as in process of voting.
Point of order. There was no second.
There was a second.
Was there? I did not hear it.
Mine.
So maybe that's part of it. I did not hear a second. So
Yeah,
my point of order,
I was not voting at that time.
My point of order, presiding officer, is can we resume the voting?
There was an alternate motion on the table.
The alternate motion, point of order, the alternate motion failed.
Why don't we ask the city clerk to recap, because now it's thorough confusion. Where are we? Which vote are we taking?
Thank you, Mayor. So the alternate motion failed. There was an initial motion made by Councilman Whitehead. That failed. There was then a motion made by Councilman Littlefield. Then there was an alternate motion made by Councilman Whitehead. That alternate motion failed. So now we're back to the original motion made by Councilman Littlefield. That's where we're at right now.
That's where we said. So let's take a vote on that.
Yeah.
Did you get a vote on that, did you
No.
say? Okay.
Mayor, can I add, I just want to clarify that the motion, given the screen that was put up with the draft motion, if you could put that up again, it talks about the tentative budget approved on May 20th. That has changed with the classification and comp plan, and I want to make sure it's clear to this council that that's with the new changes in the classification and comp plan minus the amendments that Councilwoman Littlefield mentioned and that the second agreed to. I just want to clarify that for the record before the council votes.
Might as well make it as clear as it possibly can be at this point. Thank you for that.
So we're going to vote on Councilwoman Littlefield's motion?
Okay, now we've got 3 people that want to speak.
No, you didn't make a decision. Point of order. My point of order was, can we resume voting, Madam Mayor, as we were? That's my, and I need, and
The maker of the motion would like to speak. Are you opposing that?
I'm asking you as a presiding officer to make a decision about my point of order.
There was obviously confusion. I don't know what you're continuing to make a point of. We have to take the vote over. So we'll start the vote over because I was unaware that the screen was indicating the vote. We've already talked about this. You've made the point, okay? There's been several votes coming across the screen. So Councilwoman Littlefield, would you like to say anything at this point? You're indicated.
I was just going to say a reason why I believe this would be a reasonable thing to do at this time. We have some necessary, large increases in our budget with public safety and with other departments. And while the overall budget is not increasing so much, it will as we go forward with the additional people. In order to try to keep that as small as possible and to benefit our tax-paying citizens, I believe we should all be open to reducing our departmental budgets as much as possible. After studying both of the budgets for the City Council and the Mayor's office, I made this amendment because these are positions that are not filled at this time. They are in the budget, but they have no people there. So I thought I'd like to take one of those from the council office, one of those from the mayor's office, both of them empty positions, but in the budget, and because they're in the budget, they have to be funded. So I wanted to say, let's hold off for a year, let's wait till we get through all this, and then go back. If we want to, if it shows up that we need those positions, and there are still empty positions in both offices, then we can always use those open positions, and we can go back next year and refund those and fund those positions and reopen them up if we find that there is a need. This is an action to reduce the budget probably by $250,000 total by the time you finish paying all the extra fees and fines and taxes and stuff for these folks. And both of these positions are unfilled. No one would be fired, but their salaries would be removed from the budgeting process for this year. And of course, we find that there is an additional need, if we find there is, for these positions, either one or both of them, can be reconsidered and added back in when we put next year's budget together for consideration. In the meantime, this fiscal year, we can still each hire an additional staff member to cover necessary tasks for both the mayor's office and the budget and the council office. And finally, I moved to, well, no, that's just what I want to say right there is that's why I made this motion. It's a matter of shoring up the budget, keeping it in tune, because we have a lot of increases in staff, which will, over the course of time, increase our budget tremendously. Trying to get ahead of the curve.
Thank you, Councilwoman Littlefield. I really appreciate that clarification, but there's a major factual inaccuracy. The management analyst position that's in the mayor's office is filled. It's occupied fully by a full-time employee who would have to be terminated. That's what is the case currently.
Mr. Lane, could you verify that? Did I pick the wrong budget title?
No, the management analyst position in the mayor's office is filled right now. It's the executive administrative assistant that's vacant right now, I believe.
Okay, could I amend my motion then to make it that position?
Sherry, I assume.
Yes, you could, provided it's, yes, Mayor, if I may. Yes, Councilwoman, you could amend your motion if that's what you want your motion to be, provided it's also agreed to by the second Councilwoman, or I'm sorry, Councilman Graham.
Just confirm that.
So are you making that amendment?
Yes.
And Councilman Graham, are you agreeing to second that amended motion?
Yes. Okay.
I don't see any additional speakers. I think it's because the speaker button, you've cut us off finally.
Mayor, I apologize. I'm going to have to reboot this computer at some point. if people want to speak, if they can just acknowledge to you, I apologize. We're going to have to do all the votes verbally, and if people want to speak, they just need to acknowledge
We
it.
broke the system.
Broke the
All right. I don't blame it. Okay, Councilwoman McCallum.
That's a really good way to get a new system, Ben. Just kidding, just kidding. We do need a new system next year. I am in need of clarification on this. I want to make sure that we are not cutting any of the mayor's staff and that it stays exactly the way it is with the position that was ISIL's, I believe, and then the position that's currently being held, as well as the chief of staff. That's what we agreed on a couple weeks ago, so I just want to make sure that's the vote we're making. Am I?
That's not the motion on the table, Councilwoman McCallum.
Okay. I thought that's what she was just amending it to. I'm sorry.
Mayor, if I could.
Yes, go
No,
ahead.
I am removing 2 empty, unfilled positions, one from the council's office and one from the mayor's office.
There's a cost savings.
It's a matter of cost, reduction for the budgeting process right now because its budget is pretty high.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitehead.
You know, I just want to talk about this budget saving. This is the group of people who forfeited 31 million federal dollars this year.
Madam
I
Mayor,
want to talk
off-topic,
about cost
off-topic.
savings when I simply requested some clarity on a tremendous bump in salary grade, and all I wanted was to have a public testimony so we could explain to our constituents. So I think getting rid of, frankly, an assistant who answers the phone, let's call it what it is. We had already agreed a few weeks ago to how the staffing would be. It was very amicable. So this last minute gotcha changed because somebody got mad is all I can figure to get rid of an assistant that answered the phones and helped every one of us for the entire 6+ years I've been here is ridiculous, and it's not a cost savings.
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Graham.
I'll move to call the question. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Mayor, I apologize. Do a roll call vote. This is on Councilman Littlefield's amended motion. Mayor Borowski?
I'm a no for the reason that when Councilwoman Littlefield and I talked about this, she fully agreed that the mayor's office needs a secretary, executive assistant position, and I'm shocked by this change, and it screams of political gamesmanship, which I know my esteemed Councilwoman Littlefield does not engage in, so I'm very disappointed.
Vice Mayor DeBascus?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Quasman? Councilwoman Littlefield?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCallum?
I would like to comment on my statement. I was here to vote for the police increase. I do not want anybody to say that we are not pro-public safety, but to take away the mayor's staff at the last minute, I am forced to vote no.
And Councilwoman Whitehead?
I would like to make a statement as well. I'm going to vote yes on this budget. But the fact that this council has been called the most toxic council in multiple media outlets, I guess we upheld that we re-earned that this session. We had a budget that 7 of us worked hard on, 7 of us were willing to support each other's priorities, 7 of us were supposed to vote for. And we also had already resolved the issue of the mayor's staff. So this is an outrage. This is exactly the political gamemanship that earns politicians the lowest level of trust. And I am proud of the leaders that are up here that are trying to do the right thing. I wish it was the majority. I will vote yes.
Mayor, it passes 5-2.
Thank you. All right, we are resuming. Let's see where we left off here.
We can give her one of ours if she needs it. We are using it.
All right, moving on to item, I'm going to close the special meeting and resume the regular meeting. Moving on to item 25A, which is the Independent Ethics Panel report of findings of fact and conclusions of law for this item, period. For this item, the council will consider and either accept or reject the Independent Ethics Panel's report, which found a technical but unintentional ethical violation arising out of the March 23, 2025 complaint filed against Councilman Barry Graham. There is no presentation on this. I don't know that we have any. We do. We have 2 speakers on this. So I would like to open.
Madam Mayor, point of order. I need to step out at this point, don't I?
Mayor, perhaps nobody told you, I believe that Barry Graham is recusing himself from this item, and he should then leave the dais and go into the next room.
Do I pronounce anything, or just depart?
You depart.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's perfect. We received 2 requests to speak. First is Bob Littlefield.
So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about why I think this ethics so-called violation is wrong and why it should be rejected. Others will come up here and talk about that. I just want to point out that this particular, if you have any question as to whether or not this is a valid finding or not, there's really only one thing you need to know, which is that when the investigator who originally investigated Graham's case said there was no violation, and yet the judges continued this. That was a mistake. That should tell you right there that this is BS, but there'll be more to come with that. Now, I was actually on the council when this ethics code was adopted, and at the time, I remember having reservations, thinking, whoa, I would not want this to be used as lawfare. But I voted for it anyway because my aspirations overcame that, and I was hoping it would do some good. Well, guess what? I was wrong. My aspirations were not realized, but my fears were realized. So, and in fact, to that point, later on, we realized on the council that this thing was way too restrictive in terms of its restrictions upon council members talking to staff members. In fact, it was so restrictive that we realized it was preventing people from, council members, from doing their jobs. So we actually put that on a ballot and opened it up a little bit. And it's pretty clear that if someone were to actually think that this were an ethical violation on Graham's part, that we didn't open it up enough, because there needs to be some level of interaction with the staff in order to get things done. There's also one other thing I would like to mention that I don't know if anybody up here has thought about. One of the judges on this panel said, "Oh, I don't think anything bad should happen to Graham, even though they said he did something wrong. There are several of you up here who have various professional certifications. I see a couple lawyers, some real estate agents, CPA, at least one. All of those professions have ethics codes. They have ethics requirements. You have to think about this. If your political opponents are allowed to say that you did something unethical, that can actually hurt your ability to make a living. It might cost you your profession. So I would say tonight, first of all, this needs to be rejected. Second of all, you need to look into the way this ethics code is written so it truly deals with ethics, not with politics. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tim Lasota.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Timothy Lasota here, 2198 East Camelback Road, and I'm here to urge you to reject this report from the panel. Hopefully some of you read the letter I submitted, but what we had here was a a council member going to a charter officer to have a meeting, being led into a discussion with other subordinates of this charter officer. At the hearing, the complainant spent the whole time trying to establish that Councilman Graham had made a request of the subordinates because the complainant had an old version of the city code. What these subordinates testified to was they were not given an order by Councilman Graham, and they couldn't even tell who Councilman Graham was talking to. It stunned me. I have no idea why the two members of this panel couldn't understand the difference between an order and a request. They seem to be stuck on the old code too. I don't know why that happened, but it did. But it's your job to correct their error, and I would urge you to do that. One of the things that was also clear is Councilman Graham sitting in that meeting looking at a computer screen and basically not talking to anyone particular. Led into that room by a charter officer who remained in that meeting the entire time. Accepting, and I know it's not been a terribly happy night on council tonight. There's been a lot of rancor. But I would submit to you that if we're going to get into crediting these, what I think are meritless panel recommendations, that there's been an ethics violation, I think it's going to get worse. I don't know if, I think some of you know, I used to work here 2 years. In fact, I could say my old office from here, and it's an unworkable system when you can't go have a conversation. I worked for Jim Lane for 2 years, and if this is the rule, I would tell him, look, I don't know how you can have a conversation with subordinates of a charter officer. And I think we have to be very careful the environment we create where we're nervous about what we say, we're nervous about people poring over our emails because we happen to have a casual conversation in which someone misunderstood something, or 4 months later we've got 5 lawyers sitting in a room arguing over what was said. That is just, I think we need to get on with the people's business and not dwell on these things. This is my favorite part about the report, is the two judges actually said, well, we hope this doesn't have a chilling effect. Well, I'm glad they hope that, but I can tell you that if we're going to get into this is an ethics violation for basically having a conversation in which the subordinates say no order given, and you can't even tell who Councilman Graham's talking to, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to break it to them. That's going to have a chilling effect. It's been kind of a rough night, rancorous night. It's not going to get better if we start crediting groundless ethics reports like this one. Thank you.
Thank you. The system is working again if anyone would like to speak on this. That was our last public speaker. Councilman Klausman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just think that I think this is important as this body sits to be able just to ask some very simple questions to Ms. Andrews, if that's possible. Ms. Andrews? Did Councilman Graham go around you to speak with one of your subordinate staff members?
Mayor Borowski, Councilman Quasman, no, he did not go around me.
Did Ms. Andrews, did Councilman Graham first go to you before speaking with any of your staff members regarding the issue at hand?
Yes, Councilmember Graham came to me first.
Ms. Andrews, did you go with Councilman Graham into the office? Did you join him during any discussions that went on at the staff member's office?
Yes.
Were you, Ms. Andrews, were you coordinating with Councilman Graham on the project and on the specific actions that Councilman Graham was seeking to achieve?
Yeah. Yes.
Point of order.
What's your point of order, Councilwoman McAllen?
I believe that we are allowed to only do two things: uphold or not uphold the statement, not reinterrogate our city treasurer. That was already happened by the attorneys.
Madam Mayor, my reasoning for asking those questions brings the foundation of why we should not uphold the findings of the panel.
So Councilman Quasman, I'm going to ask the city attorney to chime in, but my understanding is this was fully reviewed, analyzed, heard by a 3-judge panel. Both parties had attorneys, so I have to agree, I don't think it's appropriate to do an examination, a direct examination on the city treasurer at this point. It was a 3-judge panel, 2 of which I know quite well. I'm sure you probably do too, and hold in very high regard, as I do, Mr. Graham's attorney. So I don't know that it's appropriate to re-examine the city treasurer. So I'm going to grant the point of order, and we can move on. This agenda item doesn't call for us to be the deciding body, and if you didn't watch the hearings, we all had the opportunity to. We're directed to accept or reject the panel's report.
Then, Madam Mayor, let me just say this then. Accepting this report would mean the following. You agree with a judge panel, and that's fine whether you like the judge, don't like the judge, but that he interfered with the authority of a charter officer. You have to agree with that, because we do have the power of accepting a report and therefore agreeing with it versus tossing it. You have to agree that he interfered with the authority of a charter officer and gave orders and explicit directions to subordinate a subordinate. And what you just heard in my inappropriate questioning, apparently according to your ruling, is that never happened. So there's either truth or not truth here. I mean, that's just the end of it. And if we are in a situation where we can't hold a committee hearing and ask a staff member that I know 2 members of this body right now were at just yesterday, where I asked a staff member to schedule something, and I said it in front of at least one charter officer to schedule something, we're guilty of an ethics violation. We have to think rationally here. Everybody wants to make sure that we obey the rules and are ethical. Everybody. We need major reform of this language. This situation is unfortunate. We should throw this out and fix the rules. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see, there is another comment. No other comments. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to either accept or reject the Independent Ethics Panel's report.
Mayor, I'll just add a comment. We're not agreeing or disagreeing. We received a report, and we are either accepting the report by the professionals that oversaw this process, or we're declining. So I move to accept the report.
I second that motion.
All those in favor, please indicate your vote.
Mayor, that motion failed 3-3. It takes 4 members of the council to take an action. I think the report is deemed rejected by default of the tie vote.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any second non-agendized public comment, and there. Yes, we'll invite Councilman Graham to come back. Next, we have receipt of citizens' petitions. We don't have any, is that correct? So moving right along on to mayor and council items. Next up, we have mayor and council items at the request of Vice Mayor DeBascus, requesting direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance for consideration at a future council meeting related to possible changes to Chapter 19 of the Scottsdale Revised Code regarding prohibiting smoking within 50 feet of a city playground. The only possible council action to be taken on item number 27 is to direct the city manager or responsible charter officer to agendize the item for a future meeting, direct the city manager or charter officer to investigate the matter and prepare a written response to the council, or take no action. No public comment will be taken on this item. Vice Mayor DeBascus, would you like to discuss this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It came to my attention that we've had an issue with smoking near playgrounds, the city playgrounds, and I think we all feel very concerned about our children, and I was actually really surprised that we don't have an ordinance that prevents smoking near our playgrounds. And so what I would like to do is I'll make a motion for option number 1 to direct the city attorney's office or the city attorney to draft an ordinance to consider at a future council meeting related to possible changes to Chapter 19 of the Scottsdale Revised Codes, which would prohibit smoking within 50 feet of a city playground.
I'll second it.
Before we take a vote, I have a question. Sherry, do you know the answer to this? Does ARS 36-601, the smoke-free Arizona section, I don't know if you've looked at this yet, but does this already address it? I think there's a provision that you can't be within 20 feet of the entrance to a location, but I know this is a little bit different. But is this covered, this potential action by Smoke-Free Arizona? And if you don't know the answer, I know
Mayor,
that's a very big question, but.
I think it is not covered already, because I think that's for interior spaces, and I'm sure we're talking about outdoor playgrounds here. I do think that this is an ordinance that the city attorney's office will be able to bring forward.
Thank you very much. All those in favor, please indicate your vote. Thank you. That concludes all of our business for this evening. At this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Okay.